The rise of the Biden preppers. Hi, I'm Scott Ott, and this is Bill Whittle now. And Bill, this time on this show, I would like to talk about one of two eventualities that could happen after November 3rd. You know, sometime weeks or months after November 3rd, when a winner is declared in the presidential election. Of course, supporters of President Trump and in general, Republicans and conservatives know that their duty is to get out there and vote. But Bill, you also have to prepare for the eventuality that your best efforts will have not succeeded. And it occurs to me that one ought to have a plan B, Plan Biden, for sake of coining a phrase. So what do you recommend to conservatives and Republicans should the worst happen in their minds and Joe Biden wind up being elected president of the United States? What areas of our lifestyles do you think will need to change, and how should we prepare for that possibility?
I think if Biden wins the election fairly, and that's always a possibility, I guess, it's always amazing to me these things appear to be as close as they are. I guess we'll see election night, which isn't too far away. First of all, if he wins fairly, then we have to accept the fact that he won fairly. I mean, that's just the price of democracy. But I think to get to the real core of your question, if Biden wins this election, then we have to come to some very serious conclusions. One of them is that no matter how badly the mainstream media's credibility has been weakened and how many alternate ways of getting information there are, that you cannot swim against that kind of a tide. That the people in the middle of the country who are not, when I say middle, I mean the middle of the country politically, people who are not political junkies like we are simply hearing what they hear. And if you have a drumbeat that's as relentlessly anti-Trump as the mainstream media drumbeat has been for the last 16 years, then you simply cannot live in a society that has that kind of bias based on what information is getting out to the people who have to make the decisions. And if that happens, people have voted for rioting in the streets. They've voted for anarchy, defunding the police. They voted for all of those things. And if that happens, and socialism on top of it, then we got to realize that this headwind is an insurmountable headwind. And we had better start planning accordingly. I think if we lose this election, I'm speaking about myself now and probably what I would try to focus on in terms of the messages that we put out. If Biden wins this election, I think we are at the point where things are so dreadfully serious that we have to stop thinking in terms of conversion and resistance to this ongoing erosion of everything that we believe in, and start concentrating more on protecting what's left and become more of I don't want to say strictly defensive. I think if Biden wins this election, it's time for us to have a strategic retreat to gather our forces to basically bring the lines in closer and defend this idea of America on borders that are defensible in the face of the fact that we've allowed this to get as bad as it has gotten over the last 50 years.
You know, Bill, given Donald Trump's outsized personality and particular way of approaching life and speaking and tweeting and everything else, is it possible that in the aftermath of the election, the evaluation period that Republicans always go through might say, you know, what is it that the American public really voted against here? Was it against our conservative principles? Was it against smaller government, lower taxes, less regulation, strong national defense, liberty? Or was it against a particular personality?
Well, I think there's no question that if Donald Trump weren't as idiosyncratic as he was, that we would pick up a lot of votes that are chased away by Donald Trump and his demeanor. And I don't think there's any question about that. But the problem is that this is the only person that we've managed to get into the fight, because he's the only person who is willing, who has the skin and who has the brass to get in there and fight on the same level and to use the media against them. Donald Trump became president not because he was able to overcome the media headwind, but only because he was able to use it to his advantage. He was able to take this juggernaut of influence and use it to his advantage. And if it turns out that people, let's put it this way, given the weakness of the Democratic candidates this year, if Biden wins this election, it will be because more people have been turned off by Trump than who see the value of him. And so
it's
then
not
the question
necessarily
becomes,
that you have to retrench and retreat and say our values are under siege. You may just back up and say, how can we be more effective at presenting our values through perhaps a more winsome mouthpiece?
But we've tried winsome mouthpieces, and this is entirely my point. This is why Donald Trump is president. We've tried winsome mouthpieces for 50 years now, and all we get for it is to get slaughtered. The only reason that this guy is able to go in there and shake things up as much as he has been is really because of two reasons. Number one, because he doesn't care what these people say about him. And number two, because he's a billionaire, he is basically above influence, and he's above all of the compromising and the fundraising and all the rest of the stuff you have to do. He is what he is, and we've got him because he's the only card that we have to play right now. And if Donald Trump loses this election, then we have to find somebody who's got the same kind of ability to fly into this sewer and somehow find a way to survive. I can think of 10 people, and I'm sure most of you can too, who would make more presidential presidents than Donald Trump and have all of his core values. But I can't think of a single one of them that would do it, not one. I can't think of one of them that would do it. I can't think of one of them that could do it, that could go into the teeth of this kind of hostility on a daily basis and somehow manage to stay on his feet. I don't know how he does it. I've been a victim in this, not nearly to the degree that some other people like Ben Shapiro and others have been subjected to it, but I've been subjected to false accusations, and they take the living life out of you, Scott. There's nothing worse than being falsely accused of something. How Brett Kavanaugh was able to survive what he went through. When I say survive, I mean, and stay on the bench. I really, if I was Brett Kavanaugh, I would have just sold everything I had and moved to Antarctica. So what they've managed to do is make the situation so toxic and so unbearable and so unpleasant and so destructive, the entire political process. And so shamelessly so. Again, we come back to Brett Kavanaugh, one of the most decent men who's ever lived in terms of his actual record, slandered by this hair-chewing lunatic who comes out of nowhere. And because of the media, there's half the people believe that this guy is a rapist. So who's going to endure that? Who is going to endure that?
Now, as we record this morning, CNN has been touting a new national poll that shows that Joe Biden is up, and I may be off by a digit or two on this, but that on a nationwide basis, and of course, with all the caveats about polling, they probably just polled registered voters, not likely voters. It's a national poll, and we don't elect presidents on a national basis. It's done by the Electoral College, blah, blah, blah. But still, that poll was showing Biden up by something like 16 or 17 points. I saw another headline about a poll in Florida that's showing Biden strong. There's talk even of Texas. And so I'm not bringing this topic up just as kind of a benign chat fest show topic, but it seems that it's a possibility, at least, that a lot of people who right now are absolutely certain that Donald Trump must be reelected will be disappointed and unprepared, in a sense. Is there anything else that people should do to get themselves ready for that eventuality?
Well, I don't know how many people are really unprepared for it. But let's just break this down. If Donald Trump loses, then you could say, just follow it to just walk it down. It's, if not logical, then at least obvious conclusions. If Donald Trump loses, you'll be able to say, many people will say, that it's not so much conservative principles so much as the messenger. And this is the whole never Trump position and the whole thing. That conservative principles are what people want. They just didn't want it with this messenger. Okay, then what? The question then becomes, number one, who will do it? And number two, how much, when I've heard people say that Trump must be defeated because they must undo the damage that he's done, What I can see in terms of the damage that he's done is he's actually launching prosecutions against, all of these criminals in terms of Hillary Clinton, Obama, and all the rest of that. So if Donald Trump loses, we can say goodbye to those prosecutions, and we can basically say goodbye to the rule of law too, not because we lost an election, but because of the examples of people like Hillary Clinton who commit multiple felonies in broad daylight and don't have to pay for it because the media is a one-way street. It's a one-way mirror. You basically cannot run a democracy with that kind of control over information. And what we do after that, I don't know. But to me, what I think I would do after that, if Donald Trump were to lose, is I think I would put out a message to everybody who loves this country, everybody who understands in the rule of law and all the rest of this stuff, all of it. And I would just say, it's time for us now to gather together and to basically figure out what we can do for the next 4 years to preserve these ideas, how we can teach young people about these ideas in a way that will reach them rather than in a way that's nothing but, animal skins and feather pens and stuff. And then I think really, to be honest with you, Scott, I think then what happens is we have to spend the next 4 years watching things get worse, because they will get worse. If I really thought that the future belonged to these people, I would just go and retire into Montana someplace.
Let me ask a final question. Go ahead.
All of their principles lead to not only to lack of freedom and a life that's run by Karens where everything that's not mandatory is forbidden. It also leads to people losing their jobs, losing their lives, burning down buildings, rioting, all of this stuff. It leads to utter anarchy in the streets, and that's what's going to happen. So if this election turns out to go to Joe Biden, to me, this is my gut instinct on it. My emotional instinct tells me that this is now time to get into our fire blankets and let this thing burn over, because this world that they are offering, not just to America but to the rest of the world, is not the world I want to live in, and I don't think it's the world most people want to live in. And the media has been so successful on blaming this on Trump that if that's the case, then we have to accept that in the short term they have succeeded, and we're just going to have to protect these values, and we're going to have to hold on to them and keep them alive and keep them growing and keep them vibrant, and then we will have to try again. But if he loses, life is going to. Given the fact that the president of the United States will be Kamala Harris, and given the fact that the agenda that the Democratic Party continues to take and that Biden has fallen victim to, then we're just going to have to watch it happen. If he wants to spend this money on the Green New Deal or the green economy or whatever you want to see, if you want to see buildings being torn down and then rebuilt to match these incredibly ridiculous standards, then that's the broken window fallacy. When I heard Biden talking about the debate about how we're going to have plenty of green new jobs because we'll be converting everything over to green energy. This is the broken windows fallacy. And the broken windows fallacy says, well, if we want jobs and if we really want the economy to boom, then all we should do is just drive down the street and throw rocks through all of the windows that we see. And then we'll have to hire people to go to repair those windows, and the work will be everywhere. The reason it's a fallacy is that the work and the money spent on repairing broken windows could be put into building new windows and new buildings. And all of this is gonna happen. Taxes are gonna go up, and they're gonna go up big, and they're gonna go up big in California. They're gonna go up big. And so what's going to happen if that happens? Businesses are gonna shut down. People are going to protect themselves. They're going to go back to the world of Obama, where they didn't know what was going to happen next year in terms of health regulations or anything. People are just going to close up and they're going to hunker down. And if it turns out that this is what happens, then this is the destiny that the American people have chosen. And I'm not going into Adolf Hitler mode. Well, then I hope they all burn. I'm just saying you have to give people. If people are so far away from reality that they really think that the socialism's a great idea, and this whole kind of defund the police is a great idea, if we are so far away from the reality of the world that these are ideas that are popular enough to win a national election, then those of us that understand that these are bad ideas are going to have to take care of each other and let the rest of the country have their socialism, have their anarchy, have their defunded police. They're going to have. We are going to face reality one way or another. That's the choice in front of us now. And it's a choice in front of every people throughout history. There's nothing you can do about it. You can want to win. You can have a philosophy. It doesn't matter. None of it matters. Reality is going to win in the end. And so I'm a conservative because I believe conservatism conforms to the idea of reality. And if what I believed was not being, how do I put this? If there was no evidence for what I believe, if it turned out that all the things that I believe in and the Democrats are doing all the things I don't believe in, and life was getting better and better, and the streets were getting more and more calm, and race relations were improving, and businesses were going through the roof, and healthcare was better, and all of that stuff, me personally, I'd say I was wrong. But that's not what's happening. And so reality will have its way. Higher taxes will strangle the economy, and that's going to mean loss of jobs. And if you decide to defund police, you're going to watch the murder rate double, triple, quadruple the way it's doing right now. And if this is what the American people vote for, most of them will vote for it because they've been told that that Donald Trump botched the COVID response and all the rest of it. If that's the case, then we have to understand that the rut is so deep that we have to really, really look to the foundations. And we have to maintain at all costs, and I know when I say this, I know I'm speaking for a lot of people out there. If it means that I'm the last person in the world that believes in these principles, then I'll be the last person in the world to believe in them, and I'll do my best to protect them and pass them on. And reality will win in the end. If, as I say, if it seemed to me that they were right, on some level, I'd be more worried and more relieved. I'd be more worried because all the things that I held dear appear to be untrue. And I'd be relieved to realize that, the world's getting better. I guess obviously my philosophy's out of date, but that's not what's happening. And since that's not what's happening, the remnant must survive.
Ladies and gentlemen, the members at BillWhittle.com have made this program possible. You have enjoyed it thanks to their generosity. If you are one of those members, thank you so much, not only for the money that makes this enterprise thrive, but also because of the people that you share these messages with and the way that you communicate and build relationships at our website, Behind the Veil, so to speak, where members dwell. If you would like to get behind that veil, or at least find out what it's like, go to BillWhittle.com and click that big green Become a Member button. For Bill Whittle, I'm Scott Ott. Thanks for watching.